Hey team, so welcome back. Alex here again, looking at all the cool apps we can take a look at. And Camtasia is in trouble right now because ScreenPal just came out with some great stuff. It has some great capabilities, and I think is actually finally the answer to what is a good screen recorder. ScreenPal is available online, it's available in the cloud space, and Camtasia is not. ScreenPal has a native recorder, has a native application recorder, and this is the differentiator between any other online cloud recorder. I did a video before on Screencast-O-Matic. You can check it out up there. And I also done videos on Camtasia and all the problems that it has. For example, Camtasia 2024 was released only about 5 months ago, already has over 20 different or maybe 12 to 15 different patches on problems and things that it has. And why is that a problem? Well, if you're an individual user, it's not a problem. But if you work with a team in a company and you rely on IT support to update your stuff, then that's an issue because you got to start opening a ticket every time a problem is resolved. That is normal, obviously, in learning software, but not as frequent as we have with Camtasia. So ScreenPal doesn't seem to have a lot of those problems yet. Or I say yet because, no software is perfect. But ScreenPal has some great features. For example, is using AI for text-to-speech. That is already a big, big differentiator right there. High levels of accuracy, more accuracy than ever. And because it's using AI for text-to-speech, it's also learning how to fix some of the things that are corrected. It seems to do that. I'm not claiming that it does, but in my experience, it has been doing sort of that thing. So let's check it out. Ready? Let's go. ScreenPal. Oh, by the way, all of this is recorded with ScreenPal, except recording the actual ScreenPal because ScreenPal doesn't record ScreenPal. I think it's weird. Anyway, we'll get to it. Okay, so here we are. I'm recording the ScreenPal website, but I'm showing you the camera display capabilities when you're recording yourself, right? You can record in display, you can record yourself, you can just record your camera within the set, and you can change the size of your camera look. So if you're on the side here, obviously, if you're doing tutorials, it'll probably be better to do something like this, but you have those capabilities that I showed just now. So what is the deal with ScreenPal? Where did it come from? Well, it looks like it's an tech app that was solely developed or primarily developed for screen sharing in education and whatnot. However, here is an interesting thing. It does a lot of things and it does way more and great stuff than Camtasia does. So it matches a lot of the features that Camtasia does and does some of the other features way better. So the AI features, for example, can fill out your text and description for videos. You can host your own channels, and you can also do unlimited quizzes and interactivity to those channels. So bye YouTube. Oop, YouTube, don't hurt me. But you can actually not choose to have videos on YouTube because, at the end of YouTube, you get a lot of different screenshots and then the ads and stuff like that. So for your training content that is internal or your training content that you want to do, you don't want to use YouTube to display the videos. So we got different price ranges. You got your Solo Deluxe, your Solo Premier, and your Solo Max. This is a steal at $72 a year. There's nothing you're going to find that comes anything close to this. Okay, so remember that pricing demo I was just doing? Well, here we are. I'm using the actual Mac native recorder to guide this presentation. Why? Because I told you, we can't really jump and record, or at least I haven't figured out yet, how to record ScreenPal with ScreenPal. This is something Camtasia does well, but again, maybe is the source of a lot of its problems. So I'm going to show you the quick workflow here because it's pretty interesting on how they deal with editing. First of all, you do have your C clamp, your C shell in a way. However, there's nothing going on here on the left, right? So you'll notice that with many of your video editors, Premiere Pro, everybody else, usually stuff is either somewhere here on the left and then you bring it into the stage or the canvas and then you edit the bottom of the timeline. Well, look at this timeline. It's only one track, right? Interesting. Well, the way they approach things is super smart. I mean, I have no other way to explain it because I started understanding it and I got a little bit confused. But here's, for example, how they deal with your left side menu. It is a quick drop down, and you can from here make cuts or go ahead and insert new recordings, insert videos. So I like this part because you can bring projects from other, sections from other projects and bring them into the timeline. And then what happens is it will remember the last thing you did and keep it here nice and easy for you to follow. As you add more things, then those things happen. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to add some text here to do a quick introduction or maybe a lower third, right? We go over to overlays, and that's how you deal. So they're dealing with this in a sense of dealing with layers, and they color code the layers. So for example, if I select text, we got our text box here. And so we get our text box, and you may not be seeing anything at this point because we do have some things here. But as I select this text box, for example, you have the tabs on each of the items. So for example, here's the main video, here's the camera, and here's my text. So the way this works, if you didn't see it before, is that each item gets a layer, and you can actually select the item, then click on layering and arrange by layer. So if you use Photoshop or if you use PowerPoint, this is very friendly mode. This is a very friendly position. If you have doubts on how this works, you can always, they are friendly enough to put a link in here, directly go to the tutorials. So that's a nice move. Great stuff here. Control for each of those things. You can then change the style of the font directly from here. And the cool thing is you see the duration immediately on the timeline of your items. You have this little icons over here called edit points, and those work really in a nice way. I think this will be enough to set up a course on this coming up soon in the Core Praxis site. But besides that, I'm telling you, this is a very interesting approach on how to deal with specific items. Let's say you don't like that background, you select the item and then go into the style of the item and change your color, background color or text color. So there's background color, text color. I can switch this over to maybe one of my favorite colors per se, and then put it that. You don't like it in a square shape, change it over to a callout, and then you can control where that point goes. So pretty easy stuff as you look at it here. So what is there to say about ScreenPal? Well, very interesting things in terms of publishing. Let's say if we go down, let's talk about cuts, right? We always talk about cuts and how to do a cut. So a cut will be that you are removing a part of the video that you don't like. So let's say, for example, oh, right here, I know I have some silence at the end. So if I have silence at the end there and I don't want that, in most cases, you'll do a trim. They call it a trim in many other softwares if you're cutting things from the extremes, right? From each end of the clip. But in this case, you can choose if you're going to go to the left or if you're going to go to the right. So in this case, it's selecting automatically to the right. It's recognizing that you have silence there and this 2.8 seconds. If you want to get rid of that, then just click OK. You accept the change is done. Any changes you make can also be reverted by using Command Z or Control Z, whether you're using Mac or Windows. All right, so let's talk about the coolest feature there is here in ScreenPal by far. I mean, nothing compares, and that is captions. So you click captions, then you are able to select languages, right? You have multiple languages to select right here. You can pick whatever language you want and use speech to text. This is using an AI engine to do so, and it's very accurate. So here we go. Now this process is going to take, depending on your video length, of course, it's going to take seconds or minutes. So here we go. All right, so here's the end result of captions. It does the analysis, and it gives you text to speech. However, I want you to pay close attention to this panel because for me, it has been quite a frustration due to the accents and whatnot. So obviously, sometimes you're going to catch some issues like ScreenPal, right? Apparently, I said ScreenPile on this one. All right, cool, ScreenPal. But then here it picked it up well, so I guess I was doing okay. And then we have the captions with punctuation and grammar. So in reality, in your workflow, all you have to do is just read real quick through this and see if you catch any big misspellings, but otherwise you will be okay. So for example, here's screen power, right? So all right, screen power. But that's about it. So in most cases, when I use other software, and I mean Camtasia uses the local Microsoft stuff. So, you know, unless Camtasia goes cloud, we're not going to see any big improvements in that. And the cool thing here is that you can click OK, confirm those, and then they will be an option of being, oh, look, ScreenPal, pick that one out. All right. So they'll be burned on the video if you like, but you don't have to do that. You just uncheck and they won't be there. And then you're wondering, okay, well, how do I get the captions then? How do I get the SRT file? Click in there, and then in your caption editing mode, which is opens up here, you can export from there. So export as, it'll be text file, SRT, SVB, you got it. So again, pretty good features. And that's the thing, that maybe these apps are trying to do too much because I'm just trying to insert a recording in the existing project, which is a feature they have. And we'll see if it works or if it doesn't. All right, let's wrap it up. Is it perfect? No. ScreenPal is not a perfect app. No app is really perfect. But again, we're talking about an alternative to Camtasia. In terms of screen recording, it does a lot of sweet things, a lot of efficient things, and it works the audio already by itself when you're recording. It does the normalization and reduces noise automatically. The problems that it does have a problem with recording cameras. Right now, recording just in talking head, like I'm doing this, I had to actually do it with the both feature, right? So recording the screen and the camera, which is weird. It's able to record that, but it's not able to record a talking head in a Mac by myself. It throws a black screen. Now, they say the black screen happens because your privacy settings are not set. Well, my privacy settings are set to share for ScreenPal to be able to capture camera. Maybe my camera is coming through a USB dock, and that's a problem. Well, regardless of the case, no software that I used has problems with that. So ScreenPal has an issue they have to deal with in a technical sense, but I found the workaround in terms of recording both the screen and the camera, and I was able to maximize the camera so you can see me talking. So anyway, give it a try. Links on the description. We'll see you in the next videos. Enjoy yourself.